We are live, boys.
We're back.
We are back. We're back. We're back for episode 12. It feels like episode, I think it was episode 11. We had our Christmas hats on, and that's the only thing I saw on YouTube. But boys, so good to see you. So good to be back after the Christmas break. How was it for you guys, Simon? Did you have a good time?
It was great. I mean, it was always that strange time between Christmas and New Year when you actually forget what day you're on. But it was family and family walking, taking my dog for a walk, films, too much food, all the usual thing. But I couldn't help every day checking X lots of times and checking the price of everything. That never changes. But yeah, it was really good. How about you, Burge?
It was good, very good. Had my girlfriend come over from Chile, so that was nice. I did manage to kind of have a little bit of a chillax. Didn't pay attention too much to the markets, but you are right. You can't fully disengage, and or at least for me, I can't. And I did make some purchases in December. Punk strategy and some NFTs, which I'll get into later on.
Man, I love that. Guys, I'm just checking the different platforms just to see if we are live. It looks like we're live on Substack, LinkedIn, and X. For those of you that are tuning in, just do me a massive favor. Please share the stream out. Obviously, I say the more views we get, the bigger the guests, but we are the guests, and it's just stayed the same. But we are big. Look at us. No, I'm only joking. For those of you interested, I had a really good Christmas. Thank you. I was face down.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to
I know we went over this, but it's okay, guys. Don't worry about me.
You weren't very well though first, were you?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't very well. We won't go on about it. I had this K virus, which was going around in the UK, and like anything, when you look your symptoms up, you might as well like jump in a coffin and take yourself down to the morgue or whatever. But had a really good Christmas. Really appreciate you guys asking. Really keen to get back into the swing of things, especially while things are kind of picking up. I did say offline that we've just spoken for 45 minutes backstage, and it's like the conversation was just all time. And I said to both of you, I was like, guys, we should just go live. We should just go live instead of having this like this, I don't know, this not practice go beforehand, but like, you know, chatting between us, because actually if people were listening into some of the conversation, they'd have got so much from it. What people probably don't know about Simon is he's a leadership coach in communication. And I'm already thinking in the back of my mind, like, obviously I'm learning more about you, Simon. But I'm more thinking like, actually, you know, we could probably help each other with stuff here because your communication method, especially some of the feedback I've had from people after the show is like people message me and they just think like the chemistry between the three of us is unreal. And I know that obviously, to be honest, the chemistry between you and Burge is, you know, I kind of just hang around a little bit. I sit in between both of you. Burge is like the wizard of picking up the detail, and Simon, you're like the wise savant.
The old wise owl. Very, very old.
Not old, mate. You just past half time, bud.
You're a baby, as Gary would say.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Nice. You've got time. I tell you who hasn't got time is the 16 people in here that haven't retweeted out the space. Guys, do me a massive favor. Repost the space out. Get it out there. Obviously, we're back to doing these live streams at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do it every Wednesday. There may be a scenario as things pick up that we do more of these and cover more of these topics. So we're kind of more on topic because we love doing it. We love talking about it. We're just three enthusiasts who just love talking about the space, and it's really pulls at your emotions. I mean, we've gone through a period of I guess this consolidation period of Bitcoin just trading sideways, and it's drawn the whole market down. People are in this blind belief that this is a 4-year cycle and it's not coming back for another 12 months. Guys, how do you feel about what's been happening recently, Simon? Like, you know, obviously we've gone through this period of people thinking it's over. because that's how people always think. They think in these absolute like mindset of it's all over or it's all coming back. There's no in between, like kind of delta neutral thing. How are you feeling about the current state of things? Do you think it's back, or do you think it's a bit of a fake out?
I do think it's back. I do, he says, hesitating. No, I do. I do, as much as you can, believe that in your heart, in terms of, no one knows, of course, but I really do feel that. It's interesting because I do this as much as anyone else. I sometimes post things and try and sound vaguely sensible and wise about an idea, when really it's part of me telling myself, the same, giving myself the same advice. So I've noticed the very strong emotions that move through this space. I mean, I was saying offline, a week or so before New Year, people were in the doldrums, feeling incredibly down about things. It's all over. And I had those emotions flowing through me as well, as much as anyone. But I was trying to use reasoning and thought and get over myself. And now I've noticed a complete flip over the last week. You can sense it. It's just the way it's spoken, the tone on X. And I guess what I'm saying is, I, as much as anyone, feel the emotional roller coaster ride and what it can trigger inside your own mind. And I try to, sometimes I write about things I'm trying to tell myself, because you can relate to it. And I think what I've come to the conclusion is, you just really got to get a hold of your emotions, manage yourself, manage your mindset, not get too ridiculous when things start, flying, and not get ridiculous when they don't. And just don't let it become the barometer of how you sort of live your life and how you manage yourself. It's just not worth it.
It's funny, just on that point, and I'll let you dive in a sec, Burge, is about, you say about the writing and you actually saying it for yourself. There's a famous writer called Tim Denning, and one of the things he says is if you just do the writing, obviously it helps you spot opportunities, but actually it's free therapy. Like you write these things and it crystallizes it for you. And this is why I get loads of people message me over on Substack about like how to write or how to set up like a subscription model and all these sorts of things. And the first thing is just to write about it, because when you write about it, it puts it in front of you and it allows you to crystallize your thoughts. And then you just respond to what people are saying, and then it builds up this thing. So you actually just got to do it first before you got to think it.
I agree. Some people become often people become experts in things that they secretly feel a vulnerability for. I sometimes find, because they're mostly fascinated by what they can do to improve that within themselves, and then it translates into a kind of skill they try to give other people. It comes from a relatable space. So all that occasional little moments of truths are purely me trying to tell myself to calm down.
Mate, I think you're spot on. Burge, like, how are you feeling about things? Because I know you live and breathe the daily stuff.
Yes.
Maybe. Yep. And you're very much in the detail. The thing I like about you is you pick up the minute stuff that I would just not have the forethought to even look at.
There's this great tweet by DGMD that I'm going to read out. This kind of sums it up for me. I think he says...
Do you want to share it on your screen?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let me just...
Let me see if I can pull this up.
Yeah, just for the 41, while Burge is doing that, for the 41 of us in here, just do me a massive favor. Please repost the space wherever you are, whatever platform you're on. Even if you have a WhatsApp group and people who could benefit from this, we're going to talk about the crypto bull market, NFTs, the punk strategy stuff, and anything happening in crypto. And we're going to answer questions, so make sure you drop it in there. I'm just about to add something on stage, but it looks like Donald Trump is on there, so
it is Donald Trump.
Oh my God, that'll get a few viewers.
I'll scroll it down a little bit so you can see the context.
No, you're good. Zoom in on the tweet there, bud.
So basically, this is how I'm feeling about 2026.
Right. Okay.
So he's basically saying this is going to be the confirmation year, the true breakout year for digital art, collectibles, and IP. I don't know if it's going to be the true breakout year, but I definitely think it's going to be the year where people realize the blockchain is here to stay, crypto's here to stay, NFTs are here to stay, and that these are going to be permanent cultural fixtures of a revolution that will define this century. I do believe in basically everything he said there. I don't know whether this is going to be the breakout year for digital art and NFTs in particular, but I do believe this is the year where we will see a resurgence in NFTs, in crypto, and this is the year where a lot of people will realize that blockchain and crypto and NFTs are here to stay.
Yeah, I like that. I was just thinking that if people can just more and more people, I think, are beginning to grasp just the very basics of what blockchain is and what it represents in terms of ownership. It's really the underlying tech. Forget about all the jargon. It's just the tech that should be able to intrigue people enough to get on board if you can explain it in clear and compelling way, really. And that's exactly what you're saying there.
I think people where things become consumerized is where the consumers stop speaking about it. So like we just had Aioli repost the stream. Thank you very much, my man. Guys, follow his lead. Please share the spaces out.
Steve Aioli. Not quite, I don't think.
Simon, can I just double check that your microphone's unplugged? Just want to double check that. Just because it's a bit of playback.
Mine?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll come on to this in a second, which is a thing that I was listening to was a Spaces with Gary Vee. And I think that these are just the products of financial conditions and people having more money in their pockets. And I think it's less about understanding about the technology. And actually these things become consumerized when the onboarding of the actual NFTs becomes easier and frictionless. So people don't think about that element and they're just thinking about either the utility side of it or the actual holding of the actual asset. And it's interesting, and I'll get this recording of a Spaces Loki did. He's like an NFT guy, interviewed Gary Vee. I thought it was a brilliant Spaces because Gary Vee, he basically just gave everything about what he was trying to do. And one of the big elements of it is he's trying to take the friction away. And he used an example of in the early days of eBay, you couldn't use PayPal. You weren't allowed to use credit card and you weren't allowed to use PayPal. So people, because obviously like there were no regulations around using credit cards on these platforms and these sorts of things. And it created friction. But as soon as they added more layers in and they removed the friction, it became easier. And then people didn't even think about it as a thing. Now, obviously, you've got all of these protections around using your credit card because you can do chargebacks or using PayPal because it's safer and all these sorts of things. And now eBay is like one of the best technology companies in the world. And the NFTs will go the same way. But at the moment, still a bit clunky. I mean, I know it's got better. I mean, you guys will remember this when you're downloading, like in 2021, you download MetaMask. You had all these restrictions on Coinbase. Then you have to transfer the coins over onto MetaMask, which, to be honest, you shit yourself because if you get the address wrong, then you've burnt all of your coins. So you have to test a little bit. And then it was like, oh, okay, now I've got to connect my MetaMask to OpenSea, but I've got to make sure it's the right OpenSea because there was OpenSea.ai and people were clicking the wrong OpenSea accounts and connecting to it and then getting drained of it. So there's all these steps that you had to take. And then you have to remember your seed phrase. And then it was like, so there's all this friction. And there's a lot of people on the timeline that think that, this self-custody stuff is the way to go. It's not going to be the way to go. 99.9% of people are gonna want or gonna need a custody partner, and it's probably looking like it's going to be Coinbase because you just leave your stuff on there, and they have 11 of the 13 ETFs. They're listed on the stock market. I think they're pretty safe. It's probably safer than me remembering a seed phrase. I think you can do a bit of both, but that's not where I planned on the conversation going. NFTs are going to be the next thing, because they already are. I mean, we saw, and I did a video on it, and I can actually get it up. But what I'll do first is I'm going to show you the Spaces call that Gary was on recently, which was fascinating, because everything he says is really high premise. And actually, what he's saying in the call, and you'll be able to see this, is he thinks, unlike 2021, where we had this NFT craze and there were just a small supply of projects and huge demand, which meant that the prices went up. Actually, what's going to happen now is there's a huge supply of projects, but people are going to make more thoughtful plays to the 15 or 20 projects that have performed over the cycle. And that's going to be interesting for the ones that are performing, because there's going to be this narrowing effect of them just outperforming to a level that is going to be mind-boggling. So it's going to be interesting. But have you guys got any thoughts on that, just while I pull the video up? You're on mute, I think, Simon.
Yes, I can't hear you. Oh, Bird, you go. Okay.
Bird.
I mean, it was really cool to see Gary do some spaces, first off. Did a couple of spaces and jumped into the Discord a bunch. The VFriends Discord, chatting with people. I think a lot of people who don't know Gary have, misunderstood what's happened over the last few years. Many people think he left the space because he stopped tweeting out about NFTs, but that couldn't have been further from reality. He's been building VFriends on the back end for the last 4 or 5 years. And he's never exited the space. He's always stayed close to it. He's always kept up with it. And the people who really follow Gary know that. And so when he came back and he came onto some of these spaces, the one with Loki, which is the clip you're going to pull up, that, a lot of people tuned into that. I think they got a ton more viewers because Gary was on there. And it's because people were interested to see someone like Gary reappear. But that's the thing. They realized that when they actually listened, they realized he didn't go away. He was been building VFriends on the back end. And he said on the clip, he's been focusing about bringing people in from Web 2 because Web 3 wasn't growing. He identified, he knew this kind of crash was going to happen. Said 99% of projects are going to go to zero. And he knew this crash was going to happen. And I think he foresaw that we weren't going to have many new people join in this 2, 3, 4 year period of the bear market. And so he spent his time focusing on bringing people in from the outside, from Web 2. And that's what he's done with the physical collectibles. VFriends has a massive physical collectibles kind of sector now. You can see it if you go on eBay and look at sold and completed. Just type VFriends sold and completed on eBay. You can see how crazy it is. It's crazier than any other project. The only ones that even come close are Pudgies with their Vibes TCG. But I think the sheer depth of collectibles that VFriends has been able to deploy and how many people they've onboarded is a real testament. And just last point, the other day I was, I think it was yesterday, I was watching a clip from Jeremy, who came from the community and has been working for VFriends for the last few years. And he was saying his day yesterday was literally, I think 7:30 to 5 p.m. And it was just, or maybe it was 9:30 to 5 p.m. It was just one-to-one calls of him onboarding people. And then he had to do his real job after that.
Wow.
Obviously these are one-to-one calls, and some of them run a bit later. It's not like he's getting to hundreds or thousands of people in a day, but he's been consistently doing that for months on months on months. And a lot of people disregard, that getting that one person, how big that can it's how it accrues over time that is the big thing here. And
Mm.
if you're onboarding a whale, you know, that can be massive for the project. And I think a lot of other projects have completely disregarded that side of things, of trying to onboard people one by one, because they think it's too slow. But VFriends definitely took the approach which Gary's kind of said before, of like, if it's one extra person, he'd rather take that one by one by one.
I've got a counter view to that, Burge. Simon, is your mic working right now? Oh, I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. You're gonna have to jump off. I've got a counter view to what you're saying there, Burge, which is, if someone owns one NFT, they're less likely to sell it. If a whale owns 20, they're more likely to sell. And then one of the things that Gary said, certainly early on in the cycle, is he wanted price stability, and he wanted actual collectors in the ecosystem. And I feel like if someone gets onboarded and they buy one, that's a lot stronger, because don't forget, these are network adoption models. They're not traditional in the traditional form of, say, someone market buying a stock. These are network. The value is the square root of the network of users. So it's actually more people that add more value, not more volume in purchasing, which is my view that I come at it. I just want to circle back to what you said about like the Web 2 versus the Web 3, which is what Web 3, and I'm doing a load of videos now. You see on X that I'm pushing out content, and I'm getting a lot of views, and I'm now realizing how thin my skin is to some of the people in the comment section, because it's like the dregs of not the dregs of the internet. There are some actually very thoughtful people, and I did have an altercation with someone, and Simon will probably mention this.
Yeah. Can you hear me, by the way, now?
I can hear you perfectly. Simon, I'm going to let you dive in a second.
No, please go ahead.
The thing that Web3 think is a weakness, because they're like this tribalism of, oh no, it's Web 2 versus Web 3. Everything is going to end up being Web 3. So like, just not shut the F up, but just like everything's going to end up being Web 3. So you don't need this tribalism of us versus them. And like, they're going, oh, Gary's just like a Web 2 guy. No. He's a technology guy, and he's a businessman, and he's gonna figure it all out. And actually, the thing that Web 3 think is a weakness of onboarding so-called normies has now become a strength, because you're seeing it in the price of VFriends. It's solid as a rock, while the market dropped, and now the market's gone back up again and has kind of crept up a little bit. So the way he's doing it in price stability is exactly the right thing. There will be someone watching this who bought a VFriend for 20 Ethereum, and they'll be saying, Jayden, shut the fuck up. And I appreciate you, because that's fine. I appreciate that. But these things have a Lindy effect, meaning if they've survived, they will survive longer into the future. And if he comes out of this phase and these pick up in the bull market, it is locked in. Anyway, Simon, jump in.
I was just going to say, there's a few things you said there. And it's interesting, because I don't have a VFriend, and becoming more and more genuinely, just think over the last couple of weeks, getting itchy feet about getting some skin in the game, because I have seen his activity really becoming much more present. I've noticed a lot of other collections and leaders of teams within collections engaging on X with him, and he can only be a net positive for the whole space, just his passion. And I'm really interested about that, one person at a time, because that's really how people operate when they're operating at the optimum level. They don't just go, we've got to try and get mass people in, we've got to try and just go for big. It's those small little steps every day, doing that hard work, which he seems to advocate a lot, which is brilliant. And I'm starting now, I have my little list of what's my next collection I got to get into. And there's so many great ones, aren't there, out there with Quirkies and a good vibes club. But VFriends has moved up for me, partly because you both can't stop talking about it. But the other thing is because genuinely seeing how people are interacting with what he is saying, other leaders of other teams are interact with him. He's the real deal, and the collection is the real deal. And this is someone who doesn't have a VFriends yet, so I'm getting a little bit swept up by it all.
The thing is, you're doing the thing I tell people not to do, which is get caught in an echo chamber, because there's only 3 of us in here, and there's two VFriends balls.
Die-hard VFriends.
You've got 2 VFriends maxis, and now you think this is the best thing on God's earth. However,
I'm going to sue you if it all goes wrong. But what I was going to say,
I'll put you in touch with the devs.
Yeah, you said about Web 2, and
okay, we're getting some just I'm going to get you on that Web 2 thing. A.A. Yoli has just put Simon. They do talk about VFriends nonstop, and do you know what? Fair enough, we do. We're going to move on. Anyway, Simon,
I have now been hypnotized. I'm now part of the cult. I'm going to write home and tell everyone I'm leaving. No, I just think it makes sense to dive in at some point. I was going to say just a quick one about the Web 2, bridging the gap. That I'm trying to my best in my own little way, get out there and on LinkedIn, for example, and try to engage businesses, Web 2 traditional businesses, just to start just even having an open mind to the prospects of what blockchain can do and tokenization can do, just to kind of give it a bit of an open mind and just spend 5 minutes. And it isn't easy to make that gap because people have got a preconceived idea. And I'm just trying to find the most simplest, clearest ways of describing what the technology is in a way that really makes sense to businesses. In fact, there's one of your founder members, Alex, I've been talking to quite a bit. We've both been going back and forth about how do you position the ability to really engage with Web 2 businesses around tokenization, because I do think tokenization is something tangible that people should be able to get their head around if you can explain it clearly. And we've both been going back and forth about it. And I've been thinking one way is to educate people about it. Other ways is actually coming up with a product that's really powerful, simple, and has and useful about tokenization. But I do believe that the way you make the bridge to businesses is by being able to show them use cases, case studies of how it could make a difference. And as you said, Jayden, that you got to do it because you're going to get left behind, because it's inevitable. The use of blockchain for the financial system, for ownership, for creating value for your customers, giving them that kind of freedom to own something is coming whether you like it or not. So why not get on board now is my kind of message with it all.
I think it's spot on, my man. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this to the stage quickly. This was actually a very, very good snippet from the Spaces call that they had with Gary. And guys, I want you to listen to this. We will move on from the VFriends spam. I promise you. I've just got to find the play button on this thing. You might have to hold on. Here we go.
I think
can you guys say
NFTs are collectibles for the rest of everybody's life in here, the end. And I think that NFTs right now are just in the same place that many collectibles have been. Stamps, coins, trading cards, toys. They're in a lull. But friends, let me just say, this is actually a good one to end on. Legos was almost out of business 25 years ago. Legos were almost out of business 25 years ago. Then they started to do Star Wars. They realized, oh shit, IP matters, and their company exploded. So let there be no confusion. Things can cycle back. Crocs, here's a good one. Crocs were dead in the fucking water 7 years ago. Some of you wore them as kids, and remember if you're older, they were dead, they were the dorkiest, they were the worst. And 6 years ago, they executed properly, and people fucking, basketball players around the country, the coolest kids, wore Crocs every day. NFTs are collectibles.
Labubu's, great example, right? They've been around for 10 years.
Yeah, that's going to be in reverse, right? To your point, they've been around, and they got hot, like real hot, because they were, and then they're going to be cold next year. And then in 7 years, they're going to get hot again. And so it's all the same shit. It's a great call out. Labubu's a good one. And so this is where we're at. This is, NFTs are forever. NFTs are forever. NFTs are forever. Now the question becomes, and you guys all know this, and gals know this, I made the video at the height, August 2021, the height of the heights of the heights. I made videos that a lot of people had feelings about that said 99% of NFTs are going to zero when it was less obvious, right? Because that's how collectibles work. And so now the question becomes for all of us in 26 and 27, if we're collectors and investors, which is going to be the 1%. And you know,
that is
the question.
I thought if you actually listen to the whole thing, he's what becomes very apparent is that he's very thoughtful about the way he's tried to launch this IP, and he's actually very thoughtful about the wider space, because after the call, what he started to do is the people that were in the spaces, he started to buy parts of those NFT projects, because he knows in his mind that by giving to the space, what it then created was a whole bunch of people buying VFriend Series 2. And actually, this is less PvP or player versus player, and it's actually more about collaboration, working together, cross-pollinating communities and these sorts of things, which I think is good. Did either of you have any thoughts on what I just said? And obviously we'll move on to the next thing.
One thing I was going to say is that I put a post out a couple of weeks ago saying the collectibles market is worth $350 billion. And it's not a big leap of imagination to see how NFTs, the next iteration of collectibles, are inevitable. It's just how you make the connection with people. And it made me think just then about, I wrote something else saying, it's interesting that some collections, some teams are able to make a connection with people around the idea of collecting and being part of a community, and less so for others, or maybe they'll get there at some point. And it's almost like, what's that magic dust, that thing that some collections are doing at the moment, that, you know, the likes of Chimpsters, VFriends, Good Vibes Club, Planosaurs, all these, and I don't think it's just because yes, I guess it is IP, but it's something relatable. It's something about the community itself that feels inviting, but it's something about the way the brand is being put out there, the way the team are working, the way they're communicating. But it's interesting. I think he's right. There are going to be obviously not that many that will hit the top, but the ones who do really will. And it's about now finding your tribe, as it were.
On that point, Simon, on collectibles, I mean, you can see it with something that isn't tracked very well, but collectibles in games, like in the gaming industry, digital collectibles, but they're not called digital collectibles, they're not really called NFTs or anything like that. They're just skins. We're talking about like skins in Fortnite, for example, or skins in other games, or loot crates, or CSGO, for example. Counter-Strike is a very popular FPS game on the PC that has skins that literally go for millions. There is skins on there that are so rare that they sell for 6 figures, 7 figures. And you know, the market over in China for those skins is insane. People, that's very under. It hasn't been really analyzed a lot, like how much money is in that. So when you say collectibles is up to 350 billion, that's actually talking more about like the physical collectibles that we've seen grow in popularity, like sports cards, Pokemon cards, the things that we've seen, you know, it become more culturally relevant. But actually, we're still missing a large part of the pie here. But think about, for the gamers out there, Valorant, skins that people buy, they can't trade them. There's no marketplace to trade them. You buy that skin, it's attached to your account. So if you ever stop playing the game, that's it. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't get that money back. That money, those skins are going to be attached to that account forever. And I know I have friends who've spent £500, £1,000 on skins on a game and they can't trade those skins. Just imagine if those skins were NFTs and that people were actually tracking this market and seeing how much was being spent on this. Valorant, I bet you, Valorant has, because I think Valorant is a free game, just like Fortnite was. They made the model was never to charge for the game. it was a free game and they charged for the skins and the battle passes. They made all their money. Fortnite, Valorant, and other games like it have made all their money on skins, on these secondary purchases that you don't have to buy, by the way, that you can completely ignore buying them if you want to and just play the game for free. But they know people will fall in love with the game if they create a good product and then will want to buy a skin. And I've bought a Fortnite skin. I bought a Valorant skin. I haven't bought many, but I bought Counter-Strike skins I did buy a lot of. And you know the reason why I bought a lot of Counter-Strike skins? Although it was definitely the game I fell in love with more, it was because there was a marketplace where I knew I could always sell it and get at least 75, 80% of my money back. And boy, when gaming collectibles, when gaming skins become NFTs and you can trade them on the marketplace and you can buy it, use it for a few months and sell it again, maybe even for a profit, that will change the game.
Yeah, where you can really own something and you can do something with it.
And then cash it out at the end.
Yes. Do you know, actually as well, talk about technology merging with collectibles and toys. I listened to something on the radio today and it was about Lego. Did you hear about this? That there's a big debate now because Lego are going to be putting in technology into the bricks itself.
Oh, really?
And
no, I didn't know that.
Who don't want that to happen because it's all about your imagination and it's all about being away from technology.
Yes.
But actually, some people who are or were purists are saying no. Can you imagine? As a little kid, you're 7 years old, and now with your Lego, when you build a plane, it makes the sound of a plane. When you build it in certain ways, the Lego lights up. It becomes this other thing. You're not going on a screen. You're just bringing the Lego to life. And that just shows you. So if people are prepared to make that connection, they're going to be prepared. Surely.
Last point on that collectibles bit is VeeFriends, and you even saw it with Pudgy with Vibes TCG, but VeeFriends, has brought out a vast collection of different collectibles, right? Gary's clearly seen what was happening in the sports card, in the Pokemon card, the trading card space, and he's gone all in on collectibles for VeeFriends. Like this was a year, 2-3 years ago. And now we've started to see, these headlines of now the collectibles industry is up to 350 billion this year, or at the end of last year. There's no luck in that. Gary is very attuned to what's happening in the collectibles market, and he's made sure VeeFriends was early on it and hot on it and all in on it. And now we're starting to see the collectibles industry rocket up as we have over the last few years. That's not by chance, and I think we'll see a lot more of that, especially with Gary at the helm of VeeFriends, where he's early to a lot of these new or exploding sectors. And the last thing I'll say, just on that podcast that he did with Loki the Spaces, was how he talked about cycles, and he talks about Lego was almost out of business 25 years ago, and Crocs were the most unfashionable thing 7 years ago. And I think I don't know if it's fully lost on people that this is a cycle and that we had this massive bull run and now we had a bear market, and it's going to come back. But I think, I guess what people were worried about is with NFTs being so new, they hadn't seen, there's no history. They haven't seen it survive or weather the storm or survive through a cycle or two. And so people just need to see that first 1 or 2 cycles for them to start to get a lot more confidence in the underlying assets and in NFTs as a whole. And I think once we see this bull market happen, which I think will happen within the next 12 to 24 months, I think that will show one completed cycle and the start of the next one. And I think a lot more people will be willing to get behind NFTs.
Is there an argument to say we don't need to call them NFTs, collectibles? Maybe when people say,
he actually says that
nerdy little thing. What's your nerdy thing you're into? And I say, and no, actually, I'm not going to call them that.
Digital collectibles.
Collectibles. I'm
Well,
into
yeah.
collectibles.
It's funny because he does actually say in the same stream, and we will pivot from VFriends, I promise. He does actually say in the same stream that when the internet had the .com bubble bursting, they called it the web. Did they call it the web or the digital, or what was the phrase for the internet at the time?
World Wide Web.
Oh,
The
yeah.
World Wide Web, yeah. So, but then it got reframed as the internet, and he thinks NFTs would have the same thing. They might just be called collectibles, or they might just be called digital collectibles, or they'll get reframed as something else. Because let's be honest, the branding of NFTs at the moment is, I mean, I'm putting out content on Instagram, and people just think that's scammy. The collectible element of it going digital is just obvious to me, because I mean, look at us. We're on a show at the moment. We've got 111 viewers, and we're talking about a subject. Clearly, there's some interest in it, and there's a very small amount of people in the space. And if you just think about it logically, we spend more time on our laptops and in a digital setting than we do, say, in our cars or doing physical things. And it just makes sense that more of those assets in this ecosystem are going to have value to us, because also they organize community. But the irony is that the ERC20s or the coins that we're investing in, which are on financial rails, are going up in price, or some of them are. So what people are doing is they're thinking, okay, let me rotate into expressive assets. Let me rotate into NFTs, because I can socially signal what communities I'm a part of. And this is the bit that people outside of the space kind of miss, is that is what is happening. They're rotating into expressive assets. Just so happens to be that the first use case is art. And the beauty of the NFTs is they've got this built-in supply friction. So you know how many there are. And if they get a shit ton of demand, they go up in price. And then you get this weird multiplier effect, because it's on Ethereum rails and ETH is up 20%. You're like, hold on a second, it's like a money glitch. I want to move on from VFriends. For those of you,
it wasn't really VFriends, was it? It was general.
No, that
Gary.
wasn't. But I just want to. That was more just to address the audience, because I know that me and you are VFriends Maxis.
Yeah, I only used a VFriend as well. That's the ironic thing about that.
What's that?
Ioli, the guy leaving the comment, he's a VFriend as well.
Oh, is he? Okay.
VFriends,
yeah. I see. He's playing the old devil's advocate. But I do want to speak to the wider audience, because I know we've got a load of people from Chimpers and Good Vibes clubs and different community side. I do want to get the balance right. But I want to start. I just want to quickly pivot. We've seen Bitcoin go up. Everyone is just like, who was playing the 4-year cycle, trying to trade around it, is now losing their minds. They're going to be in denial, maybe for a couple of weeks. And if it keeps going up, they're going to chase the train out the station. They're going to try and get back into risk assets. I did a reaction video to, I don't know if you've seen her. Her name's Leah Hepburn. She's like a very attractive crypto influencer. She's got 4 million followers on TikTok. Does this video. This is in December. See, guys, I told you, you all should have sold. And I've sold out my Bitcoin position, and I've done this. And I'm just listening to this, and I'm thinking, I watched the video yesterday, and she's like, oh, strategies change. You've got to react to the market at all times. And now we're back in. And she's showing these screenshots of how she's up on these trades by 200%. And I'm like, this is, that video where he goes, #1 bullshit guy. This is bullshit. It's just, it's utter crap. And this is the slop that people are listening to. And she's attractive. It's a male-driven audience. So she's getting all these followers. But the things that she's saying is incorrect. And there are no good traders in crypto, because no one knows how to trade around this bipolar asset. The only thing that you can do is just add to your position. What we've seen is that obviously everything's correlated to Bitcoin. Bitcoin dropped by 30%. Then it was Ethereum by 40. Then Solana 50. Then if you into Sui, it was 60. It's not the end of the world. Now it's all come back up again. And those smaller, less liquid ones are now outpacing, as they should be. But the most interesting play, and this will relate to a lot of people in the chat, is punk strategy. I was seeing a few comments on the timeline about people saying, is it dead? Is it now a dead asset? It's not coming back. It's the end. And all of a sudden, it does 100% rip in a day or a couple of days. And you're like, okay, the punks that are relisted in that protocol protect your downside risk to 0. It's like, they are like the asset. It's not the punk strategy token doesn't represent a fractionalized piece of it, but they are protected by those 39 punks, and it looks like it's soon to be 38 because there's going to be one sold. I'm sure there'll be people selling into that and doing bullshit, but it's going to create more fees and hopefully buy another punk. And I just think it's just going to go so much higher. What are your thoughts on that ecosystem there, guys, around the punk strategy? You still bullish on it? Burge said you bought some over Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very bullish on it. Bought quite a lot actually over the month of December. Didn't buy the absolute dip, unfortunately. But that's how it goes sometimes. I mean, I only have you only have a certain amount of liquidity, and I think I bought at 0.022, and
That's
it went down to 1.6, but that was like the absolute bomb, and then had that massive rally. And I've been seeing the same thing. A lot of bull posting on X from the people who've really who've been on it since minute one and have always been kind of posting about it. I think it does really well. I think if we've seen punks do very well as well. So I don't know if people have realized, but punks went down towards the end of 2025. It went down to $74,000. It's now back up. It's bounced back to $100,000 floor for CryptoPunks. So that looks very bullish. And just imagine if we start to see the NFT market recover as a whole. Obviously, that will mean punks will go higher, and then we'll see these punks start to be sold. And punk strategy, I mean, it's going to go crazy. I mean, we've seen other tokens. The thing is, it's not something we have to really predict, because we've seen it happen with these other strategy tokens. These other strategy tokens that have collections that have much lower floor prices, when the flywheel starts spinning, it really starts spinning. Now, the difference with CryptoPunks is obviously you're not going to have like 100 NFTs sell, because there's only 38 or 39 punks held by the protocol. But every time a punk sells, it's this massive, it becomes a news story almost on the timeline. People are like, it's sold, and you always have one guy, or what we've seen so far, you always have one guy who trades around it as well. It's such a news story that the guy buys it before the punk sells and then dumps all the tokens after it. I think in the end, we're going to see that happen a little bit less, because people are going to hold, because punk strategy has a much higher ceiling that it can get to. So I don't think we're going to see as much short-term trading activity as we've seen in the past. But you imagine 1, 2, 3, 4 of those punks sell in quick succession. It's going to rocket the token.
Yeah. I think there's going to be... Go on, Tom.
No, I was just going to say, what if you're combining or separating all the factors that have made punks to suddenly shoot up again? Clearly, ETH going up, punks going up, more sales. Do you think just more people are just diving in anyway, just because there's that slightly more feel-good positive factor? I was just wondering what the factors are that contribute to suddenly it shooting up. The timeline's completely different. Everyone's talking about Punkster again. Where would you separate the different attributes and contributions to that price?
I mean, my thoughts is it's just tied to Bitcoin. So obviously, Bitcoin goes up. It has this stimulative effect on the rest of the altcoin market. Then there's a relief for Ethereum, and then it has a knock-on effect to the other assets. Now, I happen to believe that in that, well, from what I've seen, is that actually it's the anticipation of the protocol token or the protocol NFT being sold that drives the price up, because people speculate on it, and then what it inevitably becomes is a news event because people sell into that news. But the kind of dopamine loop of all of this is the fact that it just generates more fees. So it's like, okay, I can handle the volatility, but if there's volatility on the downside or the upside, it's going to generate more fees and buy more punks. And the more punks there are in that protocol, that are listed. I mean, there's a few listed in that mid-30s range. There's a few more in the 40s range, and there's a whole bunch in the 50s range. So this is a bet on you saying, okay, do you think CryptoPunks is going to get to 50? It's my bet that it probably is, because it was at 125 last cycle when ETH was at all-time highs. And then you've got a whole bunch of people who didn't sell. I think 87% of the collection hasn't moved in 3-4 years. So you've got these punks trading, and you've got a whole bunch of people not selling. And then you've got a whole bunch of, I guess, fractional punks. Burge, I'll just get that up on the screen because it looks like you're looking at something there. So
yeah, I've got, this is the current holdings. And obviously, as you said, a few in the mid-30s. Carry on.
Yeah, so it's when the floor price gets close to the protocol token that it drives the anticipation. My only, I guess, not downside, but my only thing with Punk strategy is the discovery of the token. There's a whole bunch of people who don't even know what a CryptoPunk is. So now you've got to get them to understand what this Punk strategy token is, and then trying to explain the fact that it's this kind of perpetual flywheel that automatically buys and lists these tokens and burns its native token. And it does it automatically. Understanding the game theory of it, if you're in the NFT space, is easy. But if you're outside of the NFT space, it's not easy. So there's going to be education around that. But I think the bigger thing here, and I'll just, Burge, I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to share my screen now, and I want to show you a tweet from the co-founder of Good Vibes Club, a guy called Tyler. You know, I've interviewed him a couple of times, or actually just once, but we speak often on the timeline. He's such a great guy. But he put this tweet up, and I'll just share my screen quickly. And this puts it into whenever you apply maths to something. Okay, I need to get that off there. Let me just share my screen quickly. Virgie boy, right? Boom. This will really put this into perspective for you. And the reason why this is significant is because, remember, every NFT project that adopts these strategy tokens, there's a rake that goes back to buying and burning the Punk strategy. So if these do well, if the whole this thing is going to go to Valhalla, which is why I have it as like a headline in the title. Share screen. Yeah, bear with me 2 seconds. X. Right, you guys are going to enjoy this. Can you see that? Let's just check quickly.
Can't see anything
right.
yet.
No, hold on 2 seconds. Let's get up on stage. Just waiting for it to load. Right, let me just zoom in on that quickly. So Tyler Gio, I think it's pronounced. Let's just check that. So he says here, I'm not sure if y'all realize this or not, but the floor doesn't have to even double for strategy inventory to burn 590 Ethereum, $2 million of Vibester, which at the current prices is like 50% of the token supply. So what he's saying. So what he's saying now, obviously that won't happen, because obviously as the prices go up, there'll be more burn, and then the price of Vibester will increase. So he won't actually.
Yes,
but I understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying, but that just puts it into perspective for you. And then you have a 1% rake of all of that goes back to Punk strategy. This is one NFT project. This is one NFT project. You imagine there were 73,000 NFT projects at one point or another in 2021 that were performing, because there was outsized demand for these things. And I don't see a single reason why every single NFT project that launches doesn't have a strategy token, because it's like a call option on the floor. You've got a perpetual buyer, and what it does, and what people realize is that when the NFTs get to too high a price, it leaves out a whole bunch of people. So how do people take part in your ecosystem? I would never have been able to take part in CryptoPunks. Now I can. I can speculate on the price of CryptoPunks by owning Punk strategy. And actually, it's the game theory around it, because I'm, like you say, Burge, and you've said on a few calls, is that I'm the most confident in punk strategy as I've ever been in anything. Oh, sorry, in CryptoPunks as I've ever been in anything. So then it becomes, okay, what becomes the safe play that I can what becomes the safe haven here? I can't see a single downside to punk strategy, and I know that sounds absolutely ludicrous because there's downside to everything. So I can't see it, because when big people sell, what inevitably happens is it drives fees.
10%. Yep.
And then it's just like this dopamine everywhere. What do you think, Simon? What are your thoughts?
What I was going to say is, what are the odds of it's about reach, isn't it? It's about marketing Punkster now. It's about making sure lots of people know about it. What's the odds of it being listed on a central exchange? It'd be quite interesting just to get a sense of what they might be doing in the background. How likely is it? When will it happen? Will it happen? That kind of thing, because that's probably the only thing it just needs: more exposure.
Does definitely need.
And I think that's the thing. And more I've been jumping onto when I see any of the big influencers putting a little post on, what do you think's the next coin we should? I immediately jump on like some sad little person going, Punkster. You're
trying to show your stuff like the people in my comments section.
Mechanism, like some little kid jumping on there, but think I'm spamming them. But I just want people to kind of recognize what we recognize, and so many people listening now recognize about what this is, the magic of it. And I think that's the thing that probably needs to be put out there. But I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it will be listed at some point?
It definitely needs more exposure. I don't know how the fees will work with it being listed on a central exchange. I think that's the kind of question mark behind if they can sort out how it would work, where obviously the fees, you still need 10% of the buy, 10% of the sell to go towards the treasury. If they can sort out that, then I think it will be listed. But if they can't sort out that, then I don't think it will. I don't think it has to be listed. Going back to actually your question before, Simon, about like what has been the reason behind punks going back up, I do really feel like it's because people see punks as the kind of the number one project of NFTs. Now, obviously, like right now, you'll always have the apes. You always have like Bored Ape. You always have pudgy penguins. You'll always have a leader that is like pushing the boat out. But punks is the thing that people come back to, especially the people deep in NFTs. They come back to, if there's an NFT bull run happening in the next 6 months and someone has $1 million, they are buying some punks. There's no doubt about it. So I think that's what we're kind of seeing. We're seeing as we moved into 2026, we left behind, that kind of sad end of 2025 a little bit. It was a bit underwhelming. I mean, very underwhelming for a lot of people because they thought, the 4-year cycle, they thought things were going to improve towards the end. Even I did. October, November, December, they thought things were going to improve. I think we've kind of left that behind. And obviously, when you go into the new year, you start to feel a little bit more optimistic. And people are thinking, so what is this year going to mean for NFTs and crypto? And I think a lot of people came to the conclusion, I think NFTs could have a little bit of a resurgence here. What I believe is it will be a little bit, and I mean a lot of a resurgence. But I think when we saw the NFT market pick up, and undoubtedly, and the crypto market, and then undoubtedly that feeds back to punks, because punks are, the number one project, the historical project that wealth is always gonna accrue to. It really interesting, actually. I have a couple of tweets on that.
As an aside on that, actually, just to say that the same has happened with ordinals.
Yes.
I mean, no, we don't talk about that a lot, but I mean,
I have a post about ordinals, actually.
It's
oh, really? And I've noticed that uptick.
I'll just tee you up there, Simon, because I did a post the other day about there being 273,000 NFT projects, and it went viral. I think there were like maybe 30,000 views or whatever. But what ends up happening is you get a whole bunch of people in the comment section who then start talking about, because the odds of these NFTs actually doing very well is the percentages are low. However, the ones that survive or get battle tested and come out the end of that end up doing very well on the back end. But I did some data points and I covered, I guess, Ethereum, which I think is the NFT platform. And I know there's stuff that's going on other platforms. But then I put Polygon and Base, and I left out Solana and Ordinals. And did I get a bunch of shit in the comments? Yes, I did. I got I had one guy reach out to me say, how am I supposed to take you seriously? As if I'm his personal financial advisor or something. Saying, how am I supposed to take you seriously as an NFT guy if you leaving out Solana and all these, like, there's literally 1 million Solana NFTs. I'm like, fine. And what you say, Simon, is you raise a very good point. And it would be remiss of us to ignore some of the action going on these other chains, bearing in mind Solana is now a blue chip, and bearing in mind all of the liquidity in the entire space is in Bitcoin. So for us to all of a sudden be these NFT folks on Ethereum and say, oh, no, Solana's not going to be the one, or it would be completely ridiculous, because that's where all the capital is on Bitcoin. So what are your thoughts? Like, look, I know there's an Ethereum audience, but how would you dumb it down for people on ordinals? Where is the value? Is it a similar sort of thing around provenance as Ethereum, or how do you see the value on that platform, bud?
Yeah, there's definitely the provenance side of it. And I do think because of how Bitcoin is structured, and the fact that I've mentioned this before, I think when we had our first chat, Jayden, we did a bit of a stream on that. And I was saying, I think at almost in a romantic level, if you like, what I think is really powerful about ordinals is because they're etched on to the sats themselves. They're not pointed at a separate, like Ethereum, it's got the contract and blockchain, but it's not being pointed at. It is just genuinely, I always think of it being engraved on the sats, and then the sats themselves have their own rarities, depending on whether they are a Satoshi or a pizza or whatever it might be. They come from that trade done back in whenever it was 2011 or whatever it might be. So they've got the canvas has its rarity, and then there is the actual artwork which is engraved on there. And I think that grabs the attention of certain people with a certain mindset. It certainly got mine, and I think there needs to be a them and us at all with ordinals and ETH or Solana. It's whatever. Again, it goes back to provenance. It goes back to the people, the community. But there is something quite personally, maybe it's a bit naive, but I find quite magical about what ordinals represent. And they are, after all, engraved on the mother chain. And, they are forever. There is no disconnect between the art and the contract, if you like, that sits below it.
Yeah.
They are all together. And I think that does say quite a lot. And if you do believe in Bitcoin and you believe that in the future of Bitcoin, then good art projects and collections, or ones with provenance, if NFTs are going to do well, if collectibles are going to do well, which we believe they will, then there is absolutely no reason why artwork engraved on the biggest blockchain, the most secure blockchain, isn't going to do really well as well. And I've just seen the prices go up. And sometimes I've got a node, Monks, and I just seen the sheer, and lots of other ones, the sheer volume just over the last week or two has been really significant.
Just curious, because we'll just circle back to the beginning of the call. We spoke about taking away the friction. How long does a transaction take? Because in the back of my mind, because I just saw some sound bites on the timeline around them taking like a day, or because
usually it's what the average time in which you can transfer Bitcoin. They always say it's about 10 minutes a block, don't they? So right. That's what they usually say. And then when it gets really busy, particularly with when runes were going crazy, ordinals were going crazy, it was very, very busy. Could be longer.
Yeah.
But again, people who are into ordinals don't mind that friction, if you like, or that time, because it kind of again represents
anticipation.
The anticipation and the solidity and the richness of the experience. I'm actually just really interested, just as one last thing, because I know it's not about ordinals. I don't think one should disregard what they're engraved on and the historical value, potential value of the sats themselves. Because if they are an original Satoshi on his first block or whatever it was, and the art is engraved on that, that's quite something in itself for the nerds of the future, particularly, and historians. You know,
mate, I think you, Simon. I think Burge, I'll let you jump in. I know you've got something to share there. Let me kind of let you know where I'm with this. There's a couple of things. First one is bandwidth. There are obviously 270,000 projects on Ethereum. I think there's a lot of capital on there already. And then it becomes how thin do you spread yourself? Do you go into these other platforms? There is going to be value on those. So that's one area I look at. I don't want to spread myself too thin. But the other thing I look at is in the same way that you have, if you had a physical collectible, I go, right, who are the stars in that ecosystem? So the stars in the Ethereum ecosystem are Beeple and Xcopy. So I go, okay, that they're going to drive probably the most amount of attention. Beeple sold a piece of art for $69 million, actually set off the entire bull run, and it happened on Ethereum. So my view, and I may be wrong, is that NFTs will be the Ethereum. Ethereum will be the NFT chain. I think that's the core of it. It's like when you collect.
I agree.
Like when you collect,
I think it will be. I think it will be. I think what you're looking at with ordinals is a slightly different beast. You may not even necessarily think of it as a collectible. So I'm probably just thinking top of my head here. It may just have it just has a different vibe to it. And one last thing on Solana, I have got some very old ones I bought years ago, but Planosaurs for me is, again, it's all about the community and what the team are building. I don't really mind where it's going on what chain it's going on. If I relate to the team and the collection, that's great. And that's why Planosaurs for me. So on that last one, I have spread myself thin, but I hope I've spread myself thin into those ecosystems where I feel that there's some really excellent collections. You know, I haven't just gone crazy across all of them. I've been quite selective on the non-ETH.
Yeah, I mean, our NFTs on or even or ordinals on other chains are gonna exist. I just think ETH's gonna be the main place where NFTs kind of live But I think
it's going to be
Solana
both. It's going to be both.
This guy makes a really good point.
A Node Monk at its highest, the most expensive one, I may be wrong here, I'll probably be told I am wrong, sold for 17 Bitcoin.
Wow. That's
that
insane.
Kind of puts a little bit of perspective on the potential of what it used to be and what it could be again.
This guy makes a great point and talks about Node Monkeys as well. So he basically says here, you know, you got a lot of people on the timeline saying NFTs are dead. I mean, you said it before we started the live, Simon. You said you were seeing on the timeline people saying NFTs are dead. He said lots of people think turning a free mint into 33,000 or free mint into 5 figures was a one-off thing that was only in the NFT bull run back in 2021, 2022, and it's never going to repeat. A lot of people believe we're never going to get back to those heights. But the people that are saying NFTs are dead, they're blinding you, because he gives some examples of how he's taken free mint in the last 3 years to 5 figures. The first one he gives, for example, is ordinals, is Node Monkeys. He minted Node Monkeys for cheap, and it ran up to a 0.8 Bitcoin floor, which is 5 figures. For anyone who doesn't know, I don't know what Bitcoin was back in 2023 when ordinals were popping off, but I assume it must have been around $80,000 at least. So 0.8 would be what, 60,000 or so. So that's crazy. Then he goes on to talk about in 2024, he minted 10 goblins on the ape chain and for free and sold some for 5 figures plus. I don't know if he got lucky and he hit some rare ones. I actually know quite little about that project. But then one that we all know, Good Vibes Club in 2025. So you have people, I know we talked about back in December, Jayden, when we had our meetup, and Loic was saying, I don't think, I think NFTs are done. They'd have to change a lot for them to ever have a future where I could see them succeeding. But actually, that's, if you've really been in the space, you've seen examples. Now, obviously, much, much less, far, far fewer examples, right? But Good Vibes Club in 2025, when, people were saying NFTs are dead, especially that end of the year that we've just had, people were typing all sorts of things, right? That NFTs are never going to come back. But actually, in 2025, Good Vibes Club minted for 0.05 ETH, and you could sell it for 5 figures or at least 4 figures. I know the floor was 4. I'm not sure if the floor got up to 5. I think it was mid 4, like around $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. But if you got a rare one, you could have easily made 5, 6 figures on a Good Vibes Club, but maybe 5 figures.
Right.
It just goes to show NFTs are not dead. People are just not. They're disregarding the success stories.
Collectibles are not dead.
Collectibles are not dead.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's going to be more thoughtful plays. I mean, just on Good Vibes Club, they're probably, I won't say an outlier, but they were working on that project for 3.5 years. And actually, what it says about the actual project, the fact that they didn't launch in 2021 when they could have, and they could have easily pushed that project through and done $5-10 million, but they wanted to be more thoughtful about the art. And they built up the community privately in a Discord. So everyone on the outside was thinking, hold on a second, they've only got like 10,000 followers on X or 16,000 or whatever the figure was. So people thought there's no ways this is going to get attention. And then in the bear of the bear of the bear, they released this thing. And because I remember seeing it, I thought these guys are fucking crazy. Who's going to release an NFT project now? They release it. The art hits when obviously the reveal happens and people are like, holy shit, this is good. And in my brain, I still faded it because I was like, I'm not going through 3 years to watch them try and build this IP. But the reality is they already had a successful business. And that is the mistake. That's the mistake I made with it. Then they take on the strategy token and they have a built-in royalty. Now it just becomes this perpetual thing where as long as the business is making revenue and they market by their token, there's always going to be a buyer for the NFTs and the art hits, and they're a likable bunch of guys as well. And I just think the whole Good Vibes thing is going to be a big one. It'd be interesting to see.
Sorry, I was going to say people are always looking for the next thing as well. So that's another reason why Good Vibes Club worked, because even in a bear market, people are still looking for the next potential success story, right? And as you said, Good Vibes Club had all this kind of behind them preparation. They were ready for it.
Yeah, I find it interesting how many people have bought Chimpers now and Good Vibes Club NFT because we've been speaking about it.
Let's throw another one in. Quirkies, they seem to be really. And I get the same vibe again.
Tell me about Quirkies and Simon.
Well, because there's something very similar in the positivity of the team, the brand. I think is it surfing? The brand, is it from? I think it's from. Surfing
I don't know.
I don't know. I had the founder or the person who's taken it over follow me, so I don't know.
Gary picked up a few Quirkies right after the spaces.
I saw that, and again, it's perception, I suppose, as much as anything. But I think maybe the founder was in touch, just sent me a sort of private message, DM, because he could see that I was part of things, that I was talking about things. It wasn't anything great about me, but he was just got in touch. And I thought, again, that's a bit like Chimpers. One person at a time, pinpointing someone they think might be interested and actually approaching them, not being above doing that, just being very human, very connected, just sound like really lovely people. And that's what I I'm a sucker for it. I get drawn in. And then when I look at the artwork, you really look at the artwork again and you think through a different kind of almost like through a different prism, because you're now picking up on the feel of the community and what they represent. And now, of course, just help me. I want to vibe. I want to good vibes. I want to quirky. I want to be friends. Yeah. Guys, could you both get me one each, please? I don't mind which one you get.
I need to get myself a quirk and a good vibes club, especially.
Simon, I don't know, but you've had a very successful career behind you, mate. You could probably buy us one if that's okay. Who knows, if the founders are watching and they want to sponsor a newsletter, maybe we have a fractional piece between the three of us. Maybe we all chip in and get one. But that'd be good. Just looking at stuff that's happening around the ecosystem, Simon, I know you're very big on Bored Ape Yacht Club and some of the stuff that's going there. I own a Mutant. Sometimes I'm really out of touch with what's happening. This goes back to the bandwidth thing of I can't do I'm seeing stuff in the private founding group that we've got that people drop. Oh, did you see this transaction? Or did you see? And I'm missing all of it because I'm just spread everywhere doing content and all these sorts of things. What's happening in the Yuga ecosystem, Bud?
Yeah, well, it's great to see that we have a persistent other side nexus and more communities joining and it becoming more and more interactive, people building. But I think it's the next iteration when it becomes much more about using the deeds to be able to create using resources to bring your own land to life and start developing a lot more from that. But what I think is really interesting was that Gaga, I think over Christmas, said just gently kind of casually dropped in on X that we're really excited to say that we've acquired a part of the Improbables, who are providing the kind of engine and the underlaying and the platform for the other side. We purchased the other side engine that they've been building, and we've brought in-house their brilliant engineers who are associated with that. So now we can fast track a lot of the things we were wanting to do, and we can really embed those technologies and those utilities into the other side. And I just think, and obviously what they're doing with Amazon Games, and you can feel it. I can feel it in my bones that things are the next iteration is about to be rolled out. And I just think it's fantastic that these different things are coming together. Now you got Gary V talking about what he's talking about and really about collectibles. You've got these brilliant collections and teams doing some very tangible things like Chimpas, etc. and dinosaurs. And then you've got this huge part of the NFT world, which is the other side, which is wanting to create the biggest creator platform there is.
What do you make
together? I think it's fantastic.
Simon, I just want to dive in there, and then obviously Burge is going to show us this thing that he's got from Gaga. But what do you make of teams? And this might tread on your toes slightly, and I apologize because I know you're very precious about Bored Ape Yacht Club. Probably if you said the same about V-Friends, we would chimichangy you like me and Burge would come around your house, mate. You're only an hour up the motorway. But what do you make of businesses or NFT projects building infrastructure as opposed to the storytelling and the allure of the actual characters? Because there is a disconnect here. The other thing, and this is something that, again, Gary mentioned on the call, is that he's very surprised that a lot of these NFT collections launch in the same way, or they have the same character. So they have one character throughout, and there's different iterations of the same character. And that, and what he was kind of saying is like that gives you one at bat, because you got one at bat with this one character that people got to connect with outside of the ecosystem. Whereas his kind of view of it was actually to build a multi-character world in the same way that you have a Star Wars or a Disney. And then you have loads of at-bats. I mean, he's got like 250 different characters. And if one hits, you can kind of go with that one. And it almost becomes like a bit of a business continuity plan. I think what Gaga's doing is brilliant because he's trying to capture all the other communities. He's building the infrastructure layer to capture all these other communities because he realizes it's about the network of users. So I think he's going to do this. But let's take out Bored Ape Yacht Club, for instance. Let's look at some of these other ones that are doing these collaborations, but they're not actually, they're trying to build out the business, but they're not building out the characters and the storytelling of the characters, which is what the thing that people connect to. What do you make of that disconnect?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that the potential with the bandwidth that Yuga have, they can be doing both. I think there's been a lot of focus on the other side and building infrastructure and letting other collections create their lore within the other side, you know. But also, of course, Yuga have got the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the mutants, etc., and they won't be ignoring the lore. It may not be of the same direction as somewhere like V Friends, in terms of each character has its own name and its own identity, although that probably will come. But it's just where you focus your resources and your energy at the moment. But yeah. I think what they want, storytelling, knowing them and knowing that team, storytelling is critical part of NFTs, isn't it? So it's part of what our streamers are drawn to, if you like, in this space. And I think that isn't being ignored, but I think they just want to focus on that element first. I tell you just one thing, because you know that I'm a big fan of some of the NFTs on Ape Chain. You know, G's on Ape, and the fact that Inceptive Studio, who have created them, they're onboarding those collections who haven't got the manpower and the technical know-how to create 3D models and put them in there. The reason I'm mentioning them, if you look at G's on Ape, they are very characterful, and they're producing their own kind of video streams and their own storyboarding and everything. I think what I'm really trying to say is, I don't think that's forgotten with other side of Yuga. I think they're just focusing their energy on that.
It's a byproduct of, I think, these other NFT projects. Well, most NFT projects, right? These PFP projects, because they don't. VFriends was very different to them, right? Because they named all of the 230, all the 250 plus characters. They've named all of them. When you go to something like Punks or Pudgy Penguins on OpenSea or World of Women, they don't have names. It's WoW 3842. It's Bored Ape 1427, right? So they're already at this, like, they're at this kind of they're on the back foot because they've not even tried to, you know, imagine in a world where Bored Apes minted, but they weren't Bored Ape 7241. It was, they all had names, just randomized names. I know that would probably be very unpopular because that's not how things have been done. But imagine then they wouldn't be on such a back foot to then develop these personas and these different characters because they would already have some names, right? But right now, what you're seeing is these NFT projects that are really being serious, right? Like Chimpers, Quirkies, actually Good Vibes Club, but Bored Ape, of course, probably World of Women as well. They're scrambling to try and create a character that can be kind of like the face of the brand. You know, with Good Vibes Club, actually, they deliberately made the face of the brand an NFT that doesn't exist, so that people didn't feel like, oh, it's, you know, I guess their thinking was probably that didn't want it to focus demand onto that one NFT, and they wanted it to be kind of like a representation of all the NFTs that are under the project. But when you've got something like Bored Ape Yacht Club, like they're having to. I've seen them create a few characters successfully. I remember going into actually Other Side and chatting to a few people and actually discovering some of the lore around some of the characters. And, you know, I went to the pub, I think, or the clubhouse, and there was actually someone was telling me about this character and his pet. And I was like, oh, I didn't know any of this. That I do feel like they are kind of on the back foot, those projects, when they had because they didn't have names right. They never tried to create a story or a
Well, I
character.
do think that there's a Chimpers Genesis collection. I think they all have their own names. I don't know how many of them there are. So they had those from the beginning. But you're right. I guess there's a couple of things. I do know that, and I wish I knew which website this was on, where you could put your like 10KTF characters in, and which again, you know, I'm really into. Hope they come back. And apes, and you could give them their own names and develop your own lore with
That's
them
cool.
for each character. I wonder if some collections might say, you know, yes, have a certain amount which have their own characters, but if someone actually owns an NFT themselves, maybe the idea has always been that you create your own identity and it has its own story, and it's up to the individual to create an IP based out of the NFTs they own, as opposed to have it put on there. But I do think it's great if you can have a subset like Chimpers do. I think I'm right in saying this, Virgin, if you can see there, having their own subset, which do have characters. I don't think the entire collection needs to, because people want to create their own lore, I guess, and their own characters and their own IP out of what they own. But I do think IP and lore and storytelling is massive.
Yeah,
you're right.
Guys,
I see it.
Guys, I just want to kind of, we're sort of coming to the end now. Firstly, just want to say a massive thank you to the 186 people who are listening in live. Really appreciate the support. Obviously, the more you tune in, the more views we get. Obviously, the bigger we can make the show. I always like to end with what you guys are looking at, what potential plays that you might be wanting to strike on. Simon, I know that you said Good Vibes Club and Chimpers and V-Friends. Obviously, we put you under peer pressure with V-Friends. Not expecting you to do anything there. And I'll start with me. You just kind of circle back to you guys, but for me, I'm just sitting on my hands at the moment. I just think now all the work was kind of done in the bear market, and as you know, holding some good assets, and now it's just about biding your time, in my opinion. But are there any things that you're looking at on the horizon? I guess from either of you.
Can't help but keep buying more Punkster when it dips. I don't know.
I love it.
I sold one of my kids to get some money, and my mother-in-law. No, I'm only joking. But just to get some more money for Punkster. I'm definitely doing that. I tell you what, I am looking at. Again, you wouldn't be surprised. Is I've got a number of deeds, other side deeds, but they're not a bad price at the moment, and that's what I'm looking to accumulate because of the next iteration of the other side and being able to, have the tools to use resources on them. So I'm thinking that's a pretty good bet for me.
Very
nice.
Cool. I could definitely see that working out. I've gone for curio cards. I've been picking up.
Wow.
I've been kind of secretly picking up some apples. I've managed to acquire 3 apples now for curio cards, and at insane prices. In my opinion, I paid about $800 per apple.
Wow.
Which I'm really happy with.
Just to put in context, my first one I bought in 2021, which when capitulated, I think I paid $5,000 for.
Yep, and they were at $2,400, and actually, I was making offers at $2,400 trying to get one, and then I probably ended up buying Punk Strategy with all that money, and then they crashed a little bit further, and I was able to kind of move some funds around and pick up a couple more curio cards, but the main ones being the apples for $800, which I'm super happy about. Genesis is another thing I secretly think could be a good play that I've made. So I've brought 25 Genesis tokens. My thinking there is that there's going to be a bit of seed token allocated to the Genesis, or you're going to be able to burn the Genesis tokens for seed token. And I think right now with Genesis at $40, I think that could be a smart play. What I was sharing just there was actually I was sharing the Chimpers Genesis collection, which Simon said, and you're right, they do have the names So I guess they're going to use these to try and create a story. But on just quickly on your point about 10KTF, we've seen Nike sell off Artifact quietly, actually, on December the 16th. And the timeline's been going quite crazy about this. We've seen the floor price pick up over 200%. It's gone from 0.1 ETH to 0.3 ETH. So that's, I think that actually, that should give a lot of people a lot of hope for the future of NFTs, not just for this project, but this shows, and this is something Gary's spoken about, even if your project is down in the dump right now, if there's something there with that project that makes it appealing to someone, it could always be bought up by either an individual or a company. We saw it. I mean, we saw it with Pudgy Penguins and Luca Nets. We're seeing it again with Artifact, and I think this is going to be a story that repeats and repeats and repeats, where these old, unsuccessful projects that have kind of faded away in the last few years are going to get bought up by someone who believes that they can turn it into something successful. And I'm excited to see that happen with a few brands.
Good point. I know we've got to bring it to an end, Jayden, but just to say on that note with 10KTF, of course, the collaboration with Gucci and the Gucci Grails that came from that, I've got 4 of those. That's an example. You know, who knows? By the way, can I just say, when you both were talking, if anyone was listening to this who wasn't associated with NFTs and you were saying, oh, well, I bought an Apple at $5,000. These
They'd
people
be like,
are completely mad.
Yeah, crazy.
I put a bid on for 2,500. You know, what are we on?
Yeah.
What are we on?
The irony is that the Apple went to $75,000, and it was, you know, if you think about art and provenance and it being one of the earliest NFT projects, it's a really interesting one. Guys, we're going to have to end it there. Firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you, Simon and Burge, for our first one back. There's going to be a lot more interesting stuff that we cover. We're going to be back next week at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just to the 195 that are listening, we see you. We appreciate you all. If you want to get closer access to the Carrot Lane community, you can either subscribe to the newsletter, and what I do is I send this recording out so you can actually listen back to it on Apple Podcast or YouTube. And there's a written version that goes out, which you can read because some of you prefer to read. You can do that through the link in my bio, and you just click the website link, pop your email address in, and I'll send you the recording. But really appreciate the support from everyone. Burge, Simon, you guys have been amazing. Appreciate you all. Until next week, catch you soon.
Take care, guys.
See you, everyone.